welcome to a new watercolor video. Today I'm going to be painting this cute mansion, little tri-coloured mansion, and I'm using the Kuretake Gansai watercolors for this one. So I'm using Archie's watercolor paper, the hot press, and I'll list all the paintbrushes and all that in the description below. You can download the outline for this if you want to paint along but you don't want to draw the picture yourself. That's free to download on my Patreon and that'll be linked below as well. So I've lightly transferred the outline onto the paper. So I'm going to do the black pen first and then the paint. On this that I did in my last video, I experimented with this style of these really sketchy, scruffy black lines and I really liked it. So I'm going to do that again on this. Now I've recently got this book which has got really beautiful house sketches. It's not watercolour. This artist uses alcohol markers and black pen and white pen, possibly some paint markers. I'll just give just a little flip through this book and look how gorgeous the sketchy lines are. So I'm going to go for that look, but I'm going to use watercolour. And I think these lines are really beginner friendly. It's quite simple to do. The most difficult part is getting the, like the cube shapes of the house. But because I provide the outlines first of all, you could just trace that with pencil like I'm doing. And then I'm going to add all of these sketchy black lines and then move on to the paint. And this artist also adds some white highlights as well with a Posca, so I'll be doing that, which I kind of sometimes do that anyhow. But yeah, I really want to go for this style. I think it's absolutely lovely. So these are the stages. So it starts with the ink drawing and then a light wash of colour. And then on this stage, it's adding more darker tones and also some white areas where you want the white. And then on this one, it says you're touching back some of the whites to integrate them. So you can see on here, it's super white and sticking out and looks unnatural. So he's knocking some of that white back, leaving some of it in place and knocking some of it back. Okay, yeah, so I would definitely recommend this book. It's got lots and lots of projects in, kind of goes through all the stages. Now I haven't really read much, to be perfectly honest with you. I've just been looking at the pictures and I'm just going to kind of try and copy this style. Now it just shows look how scribbly it looks, and then by the end stage it looks absolutely beautiful. So I was really impressed that this book was only £10 on Amazon, because books now, they're usually like at least 15 to £20 now. Books usually are. This one only 10. This is the name of the artist, Albert Kiefer, and it's called House Sketching. So for this I'm going to use a black Fineliner pen, just a normal waterproof Fineliner. This one in particular is by Rotring and it's a 0.1. So I think this is probably my favourite Fineliner brand. So just like I did with the lines on the scarecrow, I'm just going to be really bold and just make them really scribbly. And then want to do kind of brick shapes at the edges of the chimney and the edges of the walls here.
Comment ça murky and cooler on. Push a pause for relief. Free pass, you don't even have to ask to be the cat in the sun. Someday I will see the whole deal through. Today I've got better things to do. Okay.
And then next I'm going to add some brickwork. I did do the brickwork on this one, so just lots of random brick shapes, and the chimney's also brick, and then slate on the roof, but we're just going to make them sparse. So we'll do different kind of size, so I'll do like much smaller bricks on this part so it looks like a brick chimney, and then here's going to be more like kind of square tiles or roof slates, kind of square roof slates for this one. This would also be roof.
And be the cat in the sun. Be the cat in the sun. Set aside every empty spreadsheet line and loosen up on the grind.
So I'm going to use the Gansai Tambi watercolors again. I used them for the scarecrow picture and I really enjoyed using them. I love how they kind of blended nicely when you put one wet colour next to another wet colour without completely spreading out of control. They just kind of sat where you put them, and I really like that about them. I'm going to do, even though it's just one house with one front door, I'm going to do all the sections different colours. So I think I'll have the olive green. So we'll do one green, but I'll make it muted. So olive green and grey, olive green and grey green. I'm going to use the Mars yellow. We'll have the middle house yellowy orange. I'm going to use the Mars yellow for that. And I'm going to get a bit of cadmium yellow. I'm looking for these really bright orangey yellows, which are nice and autumny. So cadmium yellow, and then I might be doing a nice brick red as well. So cadmium scarlet, and I'm going to use maroon as well. Okay, so I'm going to paint the first house green. I've just got a little round brush, number 4. So I'm just painting all the areas except for the roof, making it quite watery. So I'm using the olive green. And then I'm going to get some of the darker green for the bottom area. I might add a little bit of yellow here and there. Just drop a little bit of that cadmium yellow in, just to give a little bit of variety in colour. And then I'm going to lift out some of this just to make it lighter. I'll leave it darker to this side, but this side, just lift a little bit of that paint back out. And maybe here as well. Then we want the chimney as well, but I'll make that a little bit yellow. I'll add more yellow into that one. Now I'll move on to this one while that one dries. So for this, I don't want it to be bright red, so I'm going to mix some of the red with some of the maroon.
Can mess around. Be the cat in the sun. Someday I will see the whole deal through today. I've got better things to do. Okay, to leave a little bit undone. Be the cat in the sun. Be the cat.
Clean the brush and then lift out some lighter areas, so there'll be some kind of faded patches. Now it's looking a bit pinky. I want it to be more red, so I'm going to add some more of that bright red in some areas. And then kind of lift some of it out again. So we want a bit of a patchy watercolour kind of look. I'm going to add some more of the darker maroon to the bottom. I'm going to leave those little patches there because I think they look nice. I'm going to dry that off with the heat gun and then move on to the middle house. So I'm going to do the same for the middle house, only with the yellowy orange colours. I'm putting some yellow down first in some areas and then getting the Mars yellow, dropping that in and letting it just blend into the yellow paint. I'm kind of learning with these Gansai Tambi watercolours that if you leave kind of puddles on the page and leave them to dry, that's when you're getting shiny patches. So I'm trying not to leave too many puddles because I don't want any shiny patches. I'm going to lift some of that yellow out. Give some lighter areas. I might add a little bit of maroon to the bottom of this because I just want it to be darker. For the roof area, I'm using blue grey deep. I'm going to switch to a smaller brush. This is a number 3 Princeton Aqua Elite, and I'm going to paint the whole of the roof and the edging, the chimneys, all these little parts above the windows and the doors. So I'll just go and paint all those in, just a light layer over all those areas. And then just like in the book that I showed earlier, we'll bring the edging back out with like white gel pen, stuff like that. So we just want really watered down layer, and then we'll add darker shadows over the top.
Stretch out
now I'm getting some raw umber deep, and I'm gonna paint some of the window frames brown. I've just kind of realised that there's not many browns in these paints, not many options. I'm going to drop a little bit of the Mars yellow on some of them frames as well, just to give that kind of wood look, because that raw umber is very desaturated. So you can see how just glazing that over the top is really warming that up. For the front door, I'm going to use greenish yellow, so it's just kind of a brighter green. Just go right over the whole area. I'm going to do this chimney, drop in some red as well, just to make it match the house. Little cat's also going to be orange. We'll have a little orange cat. We'll make this one black. It's supposed to be a cat, but I think it looks more like a mouse. So next we'll do the tree. So I've just got the yellow colour, so I'm just going to do really messy yellow on the outer edge. Then the Mars yellow. And a little bit of the raw umber to the bottom area. Right, so we've got a layer of everything. I'll add a little bit of foliage down here as well. In fact, I'll add a little bit of green foliage here. So we've got a little bit of green further over to this side. Hello. What? Hello. Babysitting again. So we've got a light layer down on everything, and next I'm going to add some more detailing. So first of all, I'm going to add some more brickwork. So I've got a little, this is a little square end brush, which is great for painting little brick shapes. So I'm going to mix I'm going to get some of that maroon colour and some of the Mars yellow and mix those together to make kind of a darker orange. And I'm going to add a few just little bricks in different places on this house, and then also this one, and then maybe add some that are a little bit more watery. And then I'm going to get some of that darker green and add some on the greenhouse. And then I'm going to do the same for the roof. and also on the base of the houses here. Just give it some texture. Next I'm going to add some detailing on the window panes. So I'm going to make them all slightly different, and I'm going to use the Blue Grey Deep. So I'm just going to add a little bit of shadowing on some of them. And I'm just going to make the shadows all kind of different shapes. This can kind of look like there's neck curtains. You do little streaks like this. Kind of get in that corner, the darkest part in the kind of top left. And I'm going to go down the right hand side of everything. So we'll start with the sides of these little chimneys, and then the bottom, and then also go a little bit underneath, but this would be in a diagonal like this. Then we want to go down the side of here, make a line all the way down, because that area would be in shadow. Then this would be casting a shadow, again a diagonal cast shadow coming off here, and that would fill most of that area there. And then underneath there we would have a little bit of a shadow coming off this one. Again, they're quite often just like triangular shadows. A little bit of shadow further along underneath the cat. Then this edge will be darker. So down the right hand side edges of these parts will be darker. We'd have a big cast shadow here, really dark. I'm going to go right over the top of that so that this is creating a shadow on here. And then this, we'll paint a little bit on the edge here, and then on this side. Bottom of here. And then this would cast a shadow here. So again, diagonal kind of line. And then we'll have just a little bit down the edge here. Now there'll be shadow on here as well, but I'm not going to paint that dark blue colour on there. I'm going to use the colour that I used for the brick there, that dark brick colour, and I'm going to paint a strong shadow across here. So a big line right up to the top. And then this little bit here will be casting a strong shadow as well. I'm going to blend this out a little bit here because there would be a little bit more shadowing towards the top of just inside this area. And I'm going to go back to the blue-grey colour, and we need to add some shadows on these, I don't know what they're called, these kind of window frames. So we want a little bit across there. They would just all be shaded areas across the bottom and here. I'm going to get the dark green, I'm going to mix it with some of the blue grey. I'm going to create a shadow over the doorway. So most of this would be kind of in shadow. And that'll make it look like it's kind of set in. Just add a bit of colour there. Darken the steps, leave a little bit of highlight. We would have a strong shadow under here. Do the same on these ones, so a little bit of blue on the bottom of these, and then some shadows underneath. Now for the shadow, there's going to be a strong shadow here, so I'm mixing some of the maroon. I'm going to mix some of that dark blue-grey into that to darken that even more. And I'm going to use that to create a big strong shadow here, which is going to make this house really stand out. So we want this whole area to be fairly dark. And we're going to take it right across the windows as well, but I'm not going to put the red colour on across the windows. I'm going to take the shading halfway across the windows, but only paint the dark red on the red brick. So it's a little bit complicated. I hope it's not too complicated. If you just try and copy what I'm doing. So we want the shadow to come maybe halfway across the windows, so we'll take that across here. Then add these little shadows that would go underneath these areas. They would stick out a little bit like that. And then the same here. So those are off shadows off the windowsills. And then also under here. Now I'm going to completely dry that off with the air dryer with the heat gun, and we'll add more shadows over the windows. I'm going to get the dark blue grey and take the shadowing right over so it matches up, and just really lightly, sorry about the barking. Okay, so we've took the shadowing right over the windows so that all looks like it's really dark in that area because the sun's shining this way, so that would get shaded, but this one wouldn't because the sun will be filling that area. Now I'm going to wet the whole of the tray. I want to add some more brown here. Well, kind of wet the whole of the lighter area. Get some more of the raw umber and let it blend into that water area. Paint in the trunk of the tree. I'm going to add just a little bit of darkness on this house, so I'm just adding a little bit of water first of all, and I'm getting a little bit of that green blue mix. I'm just going to drop it in here. Drop a little bit of yellow in there for that light above the door. I'm going to get some of the blue grey and create a bit of a ground at the bottom, so kind of more concentrated right in the corner, and then a bit of water on the brush and just scrub that out. Just going to add a few little tree branches here, a few little branches. Okay, I've got a white Posca pen with a fairly pointy end, and now I'm going to add loads of little white bits. So kind of on the top corners of things, so kind of like top left corners mainly. And then I'm just going to add a few teeny weeny details, like maybe to this little cat. I'm going to try and sort this cat out. Just make the head a little bit bigger, maybe. Oh my god, I think I've just made it worse. Let's leave it. It's nothing I can do now. I don't think I can save that cat. Maybe just a little bit of white on this one, so it's like a little mottledy colour. I'm going to do a really dark trunk on the tree. I'm using the raw umber and a little bit of that dark blue-grey. So the final step is I'm going to get a black fineliner again. I mean any will do now because this is over the top, and I'm just going to add some more sketchy line detail. So I might add a little bit in the shaded areas. Add a few lines on here. Okay, so I'm going to call that finished. Okay, so there we go, that's the finished painting. So everything will be listed below, all the paintbrushes I've used and the paints, the paper and etc. It'll all be in the description below. And I hope you've enjoyed the video. Please give me a like and subscribe if you have. And I'll have another video up on Sunday.